Hey, Good News family. This is Tana Heineman, the host of our Now What podcast. This is where we unpack Sunday's message and we talk about how to practically apply it to our everyday lives. I love that you're here with us, and I love that we get the opportunity to spend more time with our pastors and have them teach us even more what the Word has to say about our everyday lives. We learn from Jesus that one of the best ways to grow is in community together. So join us as we unpack Sunday's message.
Are you guys photogenic?
No, absolutely not. I never take a good picture. Never.
Do other people think you're photogenic?
No, people know.
Okay.
Even back in glamour shot days.
That's why I was just a hand model.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Really, Derek?
Speaking of, I can't limit.
But why male models?
Is this an Office line? What is this from?
No, Zoolander.
Oh, I don't know that movie. I mean,
What a shame.
I don't think I've even seen it.
I just read the book.
Shut up. Okay, we have a lot to cut out. Do you want to reclap? I've made a complete fool of myself, and you guys did something that I know is probably worse than we know.
Oh, do you have an intro thing that you say every time?
No.
Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, yeah. I say. So.
This makes us more likable so that they can come up and say, I used to not like you.
There has to be a point when it's appropriate for Autumn to start recording us and let that go. Anyways. Hey, Good News family. How's that?
There it is.
Hey, guys. We're here completely unsupervised. So let me just warn you of that. So, and it's summer, and I feel like there's a little bit of it's summer. Let's just let our hair down. Can you guys let your hair down?
I already did.
Did you?
Yeah, it's all down.
It's all down. It's
down.
like completely gone.
I have tanned arms.
You have tanned arms?
It's the only part.
It's nice.
But that's as dark as I
Oh,
get, too.
Josh, you got some work to do.
What?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're out.
Look at
That's as dark as I
Compared to
get.
you have a pool.
we don't talk about that publicly.
Well, too bad. If anyone would like to come over, who's in Bennington in a really nice gated community.
I do not live in a gated community. Oh,
Kids all go to private schools.
It's not gated because there's no people up there.
Oh man, I was gonna say something really.
you better
bad.
stop.
You have a roundabout.
Over.
You have roundabouts.
I figured
We do have roundabouts.
that is a fancy thing,
No, it's not. Roundabouts are all over.
right? Not in the guy.
In the neighborhoods that you're in.
Yeah, they're all over the place where all my rich friends live. They
Oh my gosh.
Papillion, Bennington.
Friend.
When you're doing your jewelry parties.
It's really hard.
When you're doing your jewelry parties.
What?
When you're doing all your jewelry parties or whatever.
Do I look like a jewelry party girl?
Your Mary Kay's.
Oh my.
Well, we're stuck.
No, it would be Arbonne if you want to
sorry.
fit with that whole.
That's what I didn't
deal.
know. I was like, we're searching for something because
Yeah.
We're not.
Our Norwex
we're
cleaning rags
yeah.
are some kind of boutique clothing or something, nope, never going to do that. Anyways, can we start this thing?
Do you guys see the tax codes that you're like, oh, these are changing, and then you kind of look at, well, which category am I in?
I don't look at a tax code. That's Nate's job.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
I mean, the new bill that passed, he's like, great, now I have a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody's going to call him.
Already.
And he's like, people, this is my PSA. For your accountant's sake, when a new bill passes, could you just wait a week and let him read it first? It'd be a lot easier for him to answer your questions if you give him a chance to read it.
Now we have to keep all this intro in for that
It's
PS.
a PSA. Oh my goodness. All right, we'll see what happens. How was your 4th?
Oh, you really are going to keep it.
I'm going.
Nice.
They all know about your pool.
Shush. Stop talking
And that you
about-
live in Bennington.
Oh my
She has a
gosh.
pool.
In-ground pool.
Wow. So it's
In-ground.
not one of the above ground.
No, like what the
Run around and create a whirl.
No. It's not even inflatable, that type of.
Wow.
No, it's in the ground. There's concrete around it.
Do you ever want to swim in it again? You are out.
I don't
You are
know.
out of the herd, as we would say at our house.
I don't know about that.
It's an hour and a half from his place to yours.
It's really not. It's actually probably more like an hour and a half from your house.
That's
Because
pretty
you're
true.
straight diagonal from me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
It
easy.
takes a while to get to South Dakota. People are like, Bellevue's so far. No, it's not. It depends on where you're at.
Bennington so far. No, it's not. Depends on where you're at.
The pool is
It's
so
far from right here.
20 minutes from here-ish to my house. I drive fast.
All you have to do is hit people.
A few. They bounce. I mean, you hit the right person and they just fly off onto your curb and you would have no idea that I just hit them.
Yeah.
What about Bellevue? How long does it take you to get to work?
Like 12 minutes.
Oh, wow. Really?
That's nice.
Even like during
All
like
70.
rush hour, like, yeah, that whole 75 exchange is kind of messy.
It can get bad if if a wreck happened on the other side that has no relevance to this side, then it locks up traffic for some reason.
That may make my husband sometimes say a swear word. He doesn't, but it might one day. The slow down effect of the opposite traffic,
Yeah.
just to gawk at what's happening.
Rubberneck.
Is that what they call it?
That's what I call it.
Oh, that's what it means?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've learned so many things already this morning or
The
afternoon.
group tendency to act like the rest of the group also I think is involved.
Out of the herd.
Yeah.
Out of the herd. See?
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, seriously.
I ain't no sheep. Do what I want.
Okay. Sheep are dumb.
That's why
Sheep are dumb
Jesus
because they
referenced
think
it.
they're dumb. I mean, they think they can do whatever they
I
want.
did a fun message once on sheep
You did?
because Jesus says you're sheep.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, no, let's look at this.
I love those messages
Yeah.
because I
it
think
was
we
tons
think
of fun.
way too highly of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We're idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before they're shorn, I read this. I'm not a shepherd. I need to be clear. I'm not a shepherd. So if someone has this
Although
experience,
Pastor Mark did give you his crook.
I do have a
when,
crook. Yeah.
when he retired.
Yeah. In the literal sense, I'm not a shepherd.
Okay.
And I have seen sheep. I probably have touched, been around them. I don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, good sheep is what I meant. This is why I do this, by the way. I recognize this is
IYKYK.
anyway, some sheep before they're shorn will actually get so heavy that they fall over
I heard that.
and can't get up. So part of the job as a shepherd is to go put them back on their feet again. Sheep also have no offensive capability. So when attacked, they all just gather together. And so the ones on the outside just die.
You want to be the first one in. I want to be the closest one to the.
Yeah.
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 I'm still thinking.
Unless you've got Lambert the sheepish lion.
Wow, that was a great story. How many people do you know that story?
Never heard of her.
It's a he. Wow. It's a really good children's book.
The sheepish lion.
Lambert, the sheepish lion.
Just a kid's book. Okay. Yeah, it's worth reading.
Yeah. Like suddenly I went back all to my feels, like when I was a kid. Like, oh, that was a great story. I can't
In
even.
the children's book, I could probably read it.
Probably
It was
like right
a
at your.
lion who got lost and ended up being taken care of by sheep, and so he grew up thinking he was a lamb.
Yeah.
And it went through all this, and a wolf's creeping in to get the lambs, and then suddenly something rises up in Lambert, and he roars, and
He realizes who he really is.
realizes he's a lion.
And then he kills all his brothers and sisters.
He was hungry after that.
Yeah, he's like, what?
That's not how-
This grass isn't doing it for me.
These people are delicious. These. You have to wait, slow down. You are delicious. EWE is
Oh, there we go. You are delicious. Okay, seriously, we've lost all three of our listeners. We have to move on.
All three.
Okay, I was gonna give you some time to celebrate your baby girl, but now you're out of time. But Lily, who I'm not really quite sure how she looks so much like you and is still so freaking cute.
Just wait.
She has cheeks for days,
Yeah.
which I adore. And she turned 1
She turned 1.
on the 4th of July.
On the 4th of July, we celebrated. She had a little cheesecake for her first birthday and actually popped out, I think, two more teeth.
Seriously?
Yeah, crazy.
Impressive.
She's just chomping down on everything. Yeah, it was a good time.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have now we have a reason to, really go all out on the 4th
4th
of
of
July.
July?
Yeah.
Until they get to high school and then they feel like,
We don't want to hang out with you anymore.
no,
No, they will
the
still.
4th of July is not about America. It's about me.
I'll just throw a better party than they do.
Truth. Then they just want to come home and hang out at your pool and have parties with you.
so where you have a pool.
Nope. Okay. The book of
Your son.
James.
Will you come home and visit me, please?
I put in a pool and everything.
All I have here is your dad.
Boring. He wants to talk tax law and stuff.
He tells me he loves me. I just don't know.
Oh my goodness gracious. I hope Nate gets too busy this week and does not get something. He's one of our 3 faithful.
Also knows
Yeah. But the problem is he loves when Pastor Greg preaches, so he's not going to miss this week's podcast. Yeah. So if you'd like to say anything to Nate, this is your chance. Got anything for him?
I think that would break the thing of our relationship. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can we transition?
Women make things weird from sometimes.
What?
You're like, oh, you guys should hang out. And you just made it weird.
Yeah.
I didn't say you should hang out.
No.
Kristen in that generally recently.
Yeah.
I told her I met somebody that, like another guy in our community.
Yeah.
And the first time she met him, she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, Josh told me how cool you are.
Oh, no.
And I was standing there like, what the heck? I made it so weird. I'm never talking to him again.
Right. So now the guy knows you talked about him to your wife.
I went home and told my wife.
This guy's a loser. He has no friends.
Yeah. I'm like, dang it.
He had dreamy eyes.
Yeah.
Weird.
He was beautiful.
Right.
In a masculine way.
He's a hand model.
He's a hand model.
Okay, listen. James.
Is that his name?
No.
Oh,
Actually, Dave.
Okay, I have lost completely control.
this is your best episode.
It probably will be. Well, the only other best one would be like when I get to be with Sarah, with none of you guys, But anywho, okay, listen. James, we are at 4 out of 5 chapters in. And when I reflected over James this morning, and you know how it like breaks down into like the little sections and gives a little subtitle or whatever,
Some versions.
those
Yeah.
man-made subtitles. Some versions, yes. I was reading a version that had some subtitles.
There you go.
Okay. So we're in James chapter 4, verse 11 through something. I think it was like 13, right? You only had
12.
like 11 and 12. You had 2 verses
Good.
to rattle all of us. So well done.
Just drone on and on. Like how many more words can you add to this short little bit?
No, it was real good. Okay. He's talking to believers because in chapter 1, verse 1, he says he's talking to the 12 tribes who were scattered, basically all the Jewish,
It's written to originally. Yeah, absolutely.
to the Jewish
And
followers of the way.
Yeah.
Right? And then he was like addressing, he talked about their need for faith under pressure because they were being persecuted, and that they actually need to be acting on what they hear, because again, then it would be acting on what they hear because they're not reading it. It's oral tradition until at some point when it started to be written down.
They had to read it at some point growing up. It depends on their access to education and stuff,
Okay.
but there seems to have been some.
So then he talks about our need to control what we say, don't show favoritism, lead with love. This is where I start to see when he's transitioning into how they're treating each other is right here. Don't show favoritism, lead with love. And we're still in it in chapter 4 about how we're treating people. Because he talks about if your love shows up in your deeds, what you do, then it makes it obvious that you're a person of faith. And we then would have to get control over our words and over our tongues and over our actions. And he says to become humble. And that's how we're going to do it. Because some of you who lack humility have less control over your
Why
tongues. I don't know. Just, maybe it was the Holy Spirit telling me to look at you really quick. But
I don't say a lot of things, actually.
what?
I don't say a lot of things.
He holds back.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of the
self-control.
things that you could say.
Humility. I don't say a lot of things that I could.
Okay.
Sometimes even want to.
That's true. All right. So then he says in chapter 3, I think it ends with this verse 17, but the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace, loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. And then he transitions. So if you guys are fighting and not getting along, then it really means you're full of pride. You want to fight. I think you talked about, and that you're kind of jealous, it seems, of, if I'm understanding what he's saying, you're kind of jealous of what the world has. Like you wish you could do what they're doing or whatever. So you're ignoring all the first 2 chapters of what he's been saying. That's what he's calling him out for.
Yes,
Bringing him back to humility.
I think it's all one thought, but I'm not disagreeing with that. I think this is just, he's trying to get them to, my version, act right.
Yeah.
Just
act right.
This is how you were raised. We're following Christ, but you were raised under these same principles. You've been taught by rabbis to treat each other decently, and for some reason you're not.
Yeah, and it keeps coming back to kind of like an arrogance about it. Either my interpretation is better than your interpretation, or I've earned better than you have, or something, because he keeps, again, I agree with you. I think this is all one thought. Like if they're all sitting around having a conversation, he's like, and this, and this. And he keeps telling them to be humble. And we get into verses 11 and 12. And again, it's another place where we're lacking humility in the way we're speaking to each other. He says, don't speak evil against each other, dear brothers and sisters. So another reminder that he's talking to believers, right? If you criticize and judge each other, then you're criticizing and judging God's law. But your job is to obey the law, not to judge whether it applies to you. God alone, who gave the law, is the judge. He alone has the power to save or to destroy. So what right do you have to judge your neighbor? And I love how even in the title you said, it's, what is it?
Jerks for Jesus.
Jerks for Jesus, and that we can't be jerks and follow Jesus. I kind of say that a lot, of just evaluating how we act, how we talk about people, like even saying that we talk about people, but we all do it in to some degree or another. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So several conversations have happened since Sunday, and even you've had some since Sunday. You probably have too. Just even starting with the word judge seems to be something common that has come up in the conversations of how James uses that word. Because you can think back a couple chapters ago, Pastor Raphael was preaching about judging, and that he says, my fellow brothers and sisters as Christians, you need to be judging each other. And then now here we're saying, don't judge each other. So which is it?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us more.
Do you ever have times, by the way, this is totally on
Are you going to make fun of me?
No.
Okay, good.
But do you ever have times where people say things and regularly song lyrics are popping in your head?
Yes, all the time.
You got it? You want to say?
Yeah, you just said, tell me more, and a song from the musical Grease.
Yeah.
Tell me more, tell me more.
Why does he have a car?
Right.
I got
That
it.
just popped in my head.
Good job.
So,
Wow, impressive.
We can't sing the rest of the song.
We can't.
No.
No, it's Grease instead
No.
of Devil.
Yeah, for
Can't
real.
sing that.
Anyway, Judge. I'm trying to
Suddenly I
remember what we
can
just
only
talked
look
about.
at you with a leather jacket on and your hair slicked back.
That's weird. That's how Angie was.
Yeah, with the beer. So with the beer.
With the beard. Yes. Okay.
In high school.
Judge. James
Yeah,
uses the word judge in chapter 2 and chapter 4, but it feels like we're saying different things.
Yeah, I think there's, and it's being a responsible reader, being a good reader, noticing the cues within the other parts of what is being written. So an easy separation here, or an easy differentiation is discern or be able to see what a thing is versus condemn, which is throw it away. And we can use the one word judge and mean both at the exact same time. So in a previous conversation, I was telling you that this is, to me, I love tacos and I love Angie thing. Same word, but I hope everybody is able to go, oh, you mean different
You love
things.
tacos more.
And it happens so naturally. Right. Absolutely.
Got it.
A good barbacoa taco.
Dude, that's an intimate relationship
Right.
there.
Right.
You know?
And so not overdone, not too fancy, just, good corn tortilla. Anyway, so lunch?
Sounds perfect. Let's wrap this thing up. You got anything
Yeah,
else to say?
exactly. No, I'm good. And we do that naturally. We just go, oh, well, that's what they mean without question. We hit Bible stuff and suddenly we go, oh, we don't know what you mean. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Almost all of us. It doesn't mean that there's not, and I'm not trying to say don't ask that question. No, do ask that question. But let's push on it a little bit also and say, I think you do. So ask some of these questions of yourself. Well, and this is some of what I do if I'm having this. Well, how would you, you're asking me the question, I get it. Let's start with you. How would you work this out? And some people are like, oh, I don't know. That's great. It just means what you just told me isn't that you don't think. It's just that, oh, you don't feel free in this. And so I'll start trying to walk them through because I want them to be able to critically think. It'll help them further down the road. This is one of these where in this passage, in these two verses, James says, references what God can do. It's either, he can either something or destroy. What was the...
He has the power to save or to destroy.
Save or destroy. So is he talking about, are those big differences? Are those giant? Yeah, we're talking
Huge.
about, right. For another way we might say it, and this isn't the translation, but we go, oh, heaven or hell. He can save, bring you to him, or he can let something be destroyed. So this is the type of judgment that James is clearly talking about in this particular case. Now, if he says, why are you judging each other? He actually could be doing both. So in this, I'm referencing, where is he building with this? And I'm going, oh, he's talking about condemnation. He's talking about you taking the place of God, and which to me is bigger than even condemnation. So we've now got a third category that's even bigger. So we use judge to do a lot of different things. So someone's wearing something that maybe isn't great. You go, all right, you need a friend. Am I judging? Depends on what I do with that. If I'm then, oh, and you're a terrible, terrible person and I never want to think about you or see. Okay, you've just taken what should just be some sense, possibly. You may just be kind of a jerk and taking it way too far. And so in this judging, what are we doing with this information? Are we correct? Is humility involved? Because that question of am I correct absolutely needs humility. Yeah. So I think I just muddied the water for everything, but allowing some of these concepts to be something that I go, oh, I don't think I quite understand that. And then accept that you may never be able to articulate the entire idea, which is also fine. So you can't do it with the idea of love. Like I've mentioned, I think yesterday, I can't remember first or second, but it was second because Angie was there. So I've known Angie since we were in junior high. I know her better than everybody else, but I still don't know all of her. I can't encapsulate her into one concept. I can simply give metaphors and descriptions. Yeah. So we're dealing with concepts that are wonderful, amazing. I'm not trying to make it all intellectual and weird. I'm saying this is what we do with everything. Yeah. So allowing ourselves to be okay with figuring it out, with uncertainty sometimes, with complication. But I think a really simple separation within the word of judge is discern versus condemn.
That's good. I don't want to just like keep talking. I'll let you sit there. Okay, just even for people who don't feel comfortable even saying they could articulate what discern means. How would you define discern, either one of you?
I talked a bunch. Do you?
He might not.
Say what pops in your head and let's just kind of talk about it. I don't have the 100% right answer. I'm just saying.
I view discernment, first of all, I'll just say Kristen always makes fun of me because I grew up with like Southern preachers who don't say discernment, they say discernment. Okay. And so that's how I grew up saying the word, and now I try to fix it. But discernment to me is like a momentary thing. Like, okay, in this moment I can discern, and I think that it's given by God or by the Holy Spirit. So I view it. Whether something is good, bad, or maybe good or bad just specifically for me. Like, oh, I shouldn't do this, or I can discern that this isn't quite right, or that something may be off. Maybe it doesn't even have to do with right or wrong, but maybe a situation is not necessarily good. I view it as like a way of being led by the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Cool.
Is it always a spiritual term? Because it can be it can be
it doesn't
not
have to be.
spiritual.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Where like, it's like an ability to, ability might even be the wrong word. An awareness or something to discern, to evaluate.
Evaluate, that's a good word.
Well, it can be right or wrong. It can be discerning whether that's the best way to go or that's the best way to go. It's like making an educated, aware decision.
It's like you were saying that, and I thought about I picked, and this might be totally off, but I picked out a watermelon for the 4th of July. And in looking at all of the huge baskets or whatever you call them of watermelons, I had to like decide or discern which one I thought looked like it would be the best.
Yep.
So in that, it wasn't just what was the biggest one.
Yeah.
I'm taking information or situational things that I've experienced and putting it towards my decision in that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Would that work?
Absolutely. I love it. I was going to use ground beef, but let's absolutely use that. First of all, before I go where I'm going with this, we're not talking about rigid ideas. We're talking about an interaction and interplay of things that we do all the time.
Yeah.
You do this naturally. I don't care who you are, unless you have certain types of brain damage, you do this. And some may be more fluid with this. That's all right. But so let's look at the watermelon thing. You have 5 of them in front of you. Tell me the difference between deciding in that moment. You walk up to them and you're back gonna buy something. What would be the difference between deciding on one and discerning which one you should buy?
Good question.
That's tough.
What makes it discern?
I would say the previous experience or my knowledge,
tools of
or
deduction.
tools of
I didn't just walk up and pick watermelon number 3. I actually used some thought to evaluate.
Right.
I knocked on it. Whatever the things are, we've been taught. It's green. It's whatever.
My specific thing that I looked for was that I've been told or
TikTok.
Come to understand that whenever it has like a spot, like it's been sitting in the field for a long time, that's something that you look for.
Okay.
And then there's like things about the webbing and nerdy things. I actually saw a guy walk up to a bunch and he was slapping the watermelons. And so I asked him, I was like, does that actually work? Is there a way to know if one is better than the other by that?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I don't know. I just saw it online. I don't know what I'm doing. And it made me laugh. Yeah, we had heard about it. Yeah,
Exactly. None of us really know.
Yeah, he didn't even buy a watermelon. So where was that?
There's something really satisfying about hitting a watermelon.
Yeah.
Too. I don't know.
And throwing a watermelon.
Oh, yeah.
But does that, do you say that that's it? Like,
absolutely. It's using the information you have in front of you, and then you make a decision based on that. Now, you could just walk up and just go, that one.
Yeah.
And you made a decision. There's nothing really wrong with that, especially if you don't have any information. So we're in an information age. So if I'm doing it, I'm neurotic enough to go, I'd probably pull it up and go, how do you figure out what a good watermelon is and things like that. This one's completely white. Do I want that one? And maybe that's a thing. I have no idea. Maybe it's not a watermelon. Right? I'm trying to buy a watermelon. This is a tomato, sir. Don't get me wrong. It's a big tomato, but
that's hilarious.
You're not going to get out of it what you're hoping. Man, there's some good lessons in there.
Yeah.
But so this discern thing, being able to have some information, and so recognize whether I don't have information. I'm not a watermelon expert, so the guy walks up and starts hitting them. I promise you, there's someone out there, there's probably multiple, who do hit that and they know the sound. Why? Because they've experienced it. They were probably taught by somebody that this is the sound you're going for, because they do regular stuff with watermelon regularly and they just know it. There's a relationship to it. You see good cooks and chefs who are able to just touch a piece of meat and go, oh, that's medium rare. Or even more, they're so experienced, they know how long they put it on, and so it's absolutely done. They know their stovetop, they know the meat, they know the entire atmosphere. Yeah. So there's confidence based on this experience. And so they're able to make more reliable discernments based on experience. That said, a very mundane, everyday sort of concept is what we're bringing into this, and we're expected to. This is how you discern all the information. And I find that we weirdly throw away that's too hard. Some lighter version, I don't mean throw away, but we become less competent readers, some reason, when we come into the Bible. And we end up asking questions or assuming that the previous questions were good questions. That may be, we're getting close to where we kind of have those little trigger things, and somewhere within the idea of certain theology that I've experienced, I go, I don't think your question's a real one. I mean, it is a question. I just don't think you're getting it from the text of the Bible. I think you're getting it from a previous thing, and so it's created some tension. So, is James talking about what time, or what does he mean by judge here? Well, if we just take it out and just kind of look at it, turn it around a little bit and stare and go, oh, this is how I normally use that word. Yeah, it's probably that. So is that, am I more
So when James is saying God alone has the power to save or destroy, so what right do you have to judge your neighbor?
Yeah.
He is talking about, he is talking about that they're judging each other in more the condemnation side than the discerning side, because they're taking from God what alone is his responsibility. So I don't want to oversimplify it, but I also don't want to go down a dangerous rabbit trail. Is it, I'm going to swallow my gum, sorry. Is it,
just start gagging.
right here on camera. Is it, let me find my question. Like when people say, if somebody, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I want to go here. If someone's dying or has died and you say, were they saved? Is that like using that? I'm asking a person to use that that decision that only God alone can know. We can't we can't answer that question.
I personally think in situations like that, that's like the difference in types of judging. Like in that you're saying based off of the fruit of their life, discerning, would you say that they had a relationship with Jesus? Because I think we've all known people who claim Christianity, but don't live a life that follows the way of Christ and don't have a relationship with Christ. And that's where, to me, where scripture talks about, like, you will claim to have done all these things in my name, but I'll say, I don't even know you. Those type of, I think that there's a lot of people like that, but then there's fruit in people who walk with Jesus. Their life produces something that you could say, okay, yeah, I actually do think that this is it. As opposed to saying, like you were talking about, somebody wearing some outfit. For me, it might be that I'm wearing too short of shorts. And if somebody were to judge my relationship with God based off of how long or short my shorts are, would be ridiculous, right? Like that, for them to say those shorts are too short, he must not be in relationship with God,
right.
would be a condemning or like a very negative, stupid judgment. Like, what does that have to do with anything? And what does that, who are you to know what God is doing in my heart based off of these things? Because I'll take it to a different avenue of this. A lot of people in the church would lose their minds if somebody got up on stage and started cussing. There's this guy, Brian Welch, who was in the band Korn, and I remember seeing something of him right whenever he got saved. He was addicted to like heroin or all strung out on these drugs, and God met him in this dark place, and him getting up in front of all these Christian people and like right after accepting Christ, and was like in his natural vocabulary cussing like crazy, but in it he was also like praising God and saying how good God was because of the bleep 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 that he was in, like it was this weird thing. And so to sit there and say, no, God must, you can't be a Christian because you're using these terms, or you don't have a relationship with God because you're using these words, is like, what the heck? What are you talking about? This is something that he is, maybe God is going to convict and change in his life. He's going to have an understanding that his mouth is an overflow of his heart, and these things have negative connotation with them. But does that really define if he is walking with Jesus, or if Jesus met him in this dark place. No, it probably has a lot to do with his upbringing and how he was, the life that he lived, not where he's at currently with Jesus.
Yeah. No, when I became a follower of Jesus, probably for a number of weeks, we were still, when we were getting together, kind of studying the Bible and learning about it and stuff, still smoking and dipping at the same time while it's going. And we're there, and Glenn DeBose, the guy, one of the two guys that came in our tent and told us about the Bible and stuff, just went, all right, I can't handle this anymore. If we're going to study the Bible, I just can't sit here with you smoking and stuff. And it really wasn't even a judgment. It was a judgment. It wasn't a condemnation.
Right.
It was, he couldn't handle the smoke. It was the first time I ever went, oh. I didn't feel condemned. I felt a little dumb because I was like, oh, that's obvious. I just didn't know. So many things just require someone to care enough to
point it out.
Yeah, to walk with you and go alongside.
Well, if no one has ever told you something is inappropriate or wrong,
For real, yeah.
then how would you expect them to know? Like, I won't say who it was, but, I have 4 small kids, and there was somebody that kind of came into relationship through the family that just had a super foul mouth. Like, now, so for me as an adult, as someone who hasn't always walked with Jesus, who has had a foul mouth, I can separate it and say, I don't have the expectations of you as a Christ follower, because you're not.
Yeah.
To not have this stuff, and even to point you in the direction of, this is an overflow of your heart. He's not a Christian. Like, why would I have that conversation with somebody that it doesn't pertain to them? Like, it doesn't add up. But now where I did have the conversation was, hey man, listen, my kids are around, and I don't want you to talk like that in front of my kids. Yeah. So I need you to clean that up. It's not about you. I don't mind it.
And my guess is
not
the
my
person
favorite.
Apologized.
Well, they
didn't think about it.
I'll be honest, it wasn't quite like that, but they did make a conscious effort.
Good.
And they didn't feel like judged whenever other people would be like, hey, like, just remember, because, again, it's not, I don't have an expectation of you to walk out your life the way that I walk my life out.
Yeah.
It's different. But I do have a boundary with my kids where I'm like, hey, dude, if you're going to be around, you can't be talking like that in front of me.
And these are basic social stuff that happens in every single area. Went to El Salvador one time. No one could wear shorts.
Right.
It's 100 million degrees with 100,000% humidity. That's exaggerations, guys. But very hot. It was like 110. And so guys are all wearing jeans. Girls all have to wear skirts down to almost the ankle.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was in Africa too.
Yeah. So what if you don't want, shouldn't have to do that? Cool. You also don't have to go to El Salvador.
Yeah.
At least, and work with Christians
Totally.
with that particular church.
Yeah.
It's a clear option. Well, I don't like, okay. It doesn't change the social construct. And so will you get judged? Yeah, because you're not following culture norms within a group.
Absolutely.
To think, well, no one should judge anyone. That's just dumb. You're just judged by saying no one should judge.
Yeah.
That's your question you led in with of like, how do we communicate correction without violating the correction itself?
Yeah. I think at least an element of it is involved with offense, and being aware of it. Some of the things that I'll move toward, even if I'm not saying they should go to hell, I am like, I don't want them around me and I value them less, is usually that I'm bothered by whatever it is. Like in a different, like if someone, like in your situation, someone's cussing, you're bothered, and you're protective. And so it kind of ups the ante a little bit, but you're not then going, I think I'm going to murder you. And there's a clear differentiation for you. Even if you don't think about it, it hasn't popped in your head. And you then respected that thought. Anyway,
Barely.
You're just clarifying the rules of social interaction within their group. And it sounds so dry and nerdy, but that is at least a very simplified version of what's going on. And that's okay. Now, if I take that beyond that and go, oh, everybody should act like my group acts.
Sure.
And I am the defining person for my group.
Right.
Also, we just get into super weird things, and then we start reading the Bible through some of those lenses, and it just creates really hot messes.
Do you think that there is, so in this, I have always viewed judging one another, brothers and sisters in Christ, honestly, in a positive, well, I shouldn't say that. Initially, I viewed it in a very negative way.
Yeah.
I experienced it in a very negative way. If you're not doing these things right, then you don't get to have anything to do with us, like what we're talking about. But then as I came into a healthy community of Christ followers, I actually saw that the right judgment or the right correction was actually really beneficial. So a stupid example would be, Carissa has judged, quote unquote, judged my singing for years now.
She's discerned or evaluated it. She's
discerned and evaluated and said, hey, actually this is probably too far out of your range, or that's not the right part, and in that I've probably saved face a lot by not trying to sing something that I shouldn't be singing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not the right time for this. Or maybe it's even in my leadership. That's actually more of a beneficial type of judgment of her saying, hey, actually, I know that you're not convicted in this, but maybe don't present it as if everybody should be able to do that, because that's poor leadership.
Right.
And in that judgment towards me actually was beneficial, not just to me, but then to everyone around me. And so I think a lot about whenever we're judging something, it needs to be judged based off of the truth of what Christ has told us, or the way that we're supposed to live in that, not based off of our own opinion or our own self-righteousness or ways of thinking or viewing things. Our own convictions even.
Right. Which brings us into what I think James is doing across the board, which is trying to encourage wisdom.
Right.
So in this case where Carissa is saying this, now we've known each other we've been aware of each other for 4.5 years, but we've been friends, I'd say, for probably 2, somewhere in there. I mean, we weren't enemies before. It's just getting to know each other more. And I feel like you respect the way I think and stuff like that. That said, if I said Carissa says, hey, I think that's out of your range, versus me come up out of and say, hey, I think that's out of your range.
Yeah.
What I think would happen would be you would nod and sort of smile. It would immediately shut down the conversation, and it would take a while to repair. And those would be the effects. But internally, if you're really thinking it through, you're like, I don't think he has the qualifications to even if I'm right, I don't have the relationship. I don't have anything involved in that particular thing. Whereas Carissa could say the exact same thing. She could even say it harshly. And you may not like the style, but you go, yeah, but she may be right, and I have to evaluate that. And so the difference is whether you're aware that somebody has the qualifications to have that conversation. And if they do, many times it's the commitment to relationship. If you're just going to tell me something you don't like, well, I don't need you to tell me that. You want me to go through my list on you? But if you're gonna partner with me and go through, so another random version would be, let's say you hear somebody, their household, they have 2 kids, and doesn't matter all the details, but together they're making $250,000 is their income, and then you find out that they're about to go bankrupt. How do you feel about that? Just that information.
Yeah, that they're not wise with their money.
Yeah, yeah. Now, without going too far into this, is it possible that you would hear parts of their story and go, oh, okay, this doesn't have to do with wisdom, it had to do with medical bills that went insane. One of the kids or something like that. And you go, oh, okay, so the story actually creates empathy and compassion and things like that. It changes your tune on it.
Right.
That said, let's go to the other one where they have 2 boats,
Yeah.
a vacation house. One's driving a Lexus and another is a Range Rover or a Land Rover. Let's go that. I think that's the expensive one, right? You tell me. Yeah.
I drive a Hyundai. Gosh.
I'm funny. It's all about time.
Oh man, that was perfect timing.
Anyway,
Anywho.
what if that was the whole point? Just
Right.
about the right.
Let us all the way up
That
to-
devious. I just thought of that.
Wouldn't put it past you.
But now, how would you? What would you do with that information?
Well, I actually I would go to what business is of mine to do anything with it.
Yeah.
You know, because on one side of it, I think relationships really give a lot of clarity to a lot of things. They bring a lot of it is what it is. Community and relationship brings clarity to a lot of situations. But at the end of the day, like what I do with somebody going bankrupt on either side of it is really none of my business what they do or what the reason is. Outside of if I feel convicted or feel led by God to help in some way or another. Help. I'll do a quote, like air quotes, help in one way or another.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, that's where my conviction has to be my conviction, because if God's leading me to say, all right, hey, they're going through a tough time and I want you to give them $1,000 because you've been, you've been a good steward of what I've given you. I want you to give them $1,000. On either side, it's my job to be obedient. One side might be easier for me to rationalize and say, and be empathetic towards, if God is saying, give to the family who has all the medical bills and is going bankrupt. And it might be really tough for me to be like, what? You want me to give them $1,000? Like, what are they? They're just, the boat stands for bust out another 1,000, right? Like, is it just to repair the boat? Like, what's up with that? But it's still, no matter what, that's my responsibility. And the reason behind it is none of my business, is the way I kind of view that.
Yeah. And if we start with very little relationship, it's a Dave Ramsey phone call,
Right.
versus imagine either of your kids are grown, married, 2 kids, and this is a situation. Now, how do you respond? It totally changes the dynamic. It actually still depends on your relationship with them, but you understand more information about it, and you might come alongside. Because you probably didn't know up to that point. You go, okay, no, we need to. Nate's gonna go, okay, we need to help you figure out a budget and start. It's going to be hard. Basically, you're going to apply. Even Dave Ramsey, maybe it's just an easy kind of model, but you're going to apply budgeting techniques. You're going to try and get them to understand that you don't have to be completely, utterly, drunkenly happy
Right.
at every second of every moment of every day. So we're going to create the ability to have some discomfort and, without trying to hurt them, but you need to help them figure out wisdom. And to me, this is James. But if instead we go, so this is what, in a very rough way, and I don't mean this dismissal of the whole church. This, though, is what I think we've done as a church, a big church, evangelical anyway. 2 things that we go, I don't understand, I don't have the information. So in this budgeting or this $250,000 question, if we instead go, you no longer can be around me.
Right.
Until you get this taken care of, you're no longer allowed in our house. You're no longer allowed in our community. This disqualifies you. Now make it literally anything else. Take back 75 years and Josh and I would not be okay. take it back 30 years.
Let's say, yeah.
And actually, some churches around our country that are in our denomination might still not be okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Things that for them invalidate things regardless of any other point of view or anything like that. And we get into back to James talking about you're judging and condemning, you're judging and criticizing. You are breaking relationship. This is my commentary on that idea. You're breaking relationship and enforcing broken relationship. You're using what you think of as the law to do damage to others, to bar entrance to, we joked about a gated community, but to create in your mind a heaven as a gated community, rather than one that it's a banquet and God's inviting everybody. Wear the right clothes.
Which that image took me back to in Scripture when Jesus flips the tables and is mad. Like that is what was happening. They were saying, no, you have to do this way, and we're gonna, you said, bar or close off the ability to have relationship with God or to bring sacrifice to God.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like that's not the point of this. Get out of here.
Right.
You don't get to do that.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
I personally feel for you, and Greg and I had a conversation yesterday, kind of about this, about how when I first was in relationship with God, where I really understood his love and his grace towards me, I was like, no, this is for all people, and my mind in that was very open, and my heart was for all people to know God. And over the years, I have caught myself in situations where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the bad guy. Like you were talking about zealots yesterday, and recognizing that you are, that is me.
Yeah.
Or I mentioned there are times where I'm like, I'm a Pharisee. I'm the guy that was like this, or I'm turning into, or I'm having a moment of, I prefer that because I really appreciate God's conviction.
Yeah.
But I find myself in moments of being like, or acting like the people that used to make me feel like I wasn't welcomed in church. And as like the rough guy, that's been through hell and back, is it to feel like now I'm turning into that person. I'm like, what the heck is going on? But again, something that we said yesterday, I said, I'm so grateful for the conviction that comes from the word, because there's verses like this that we'll read over and over again in our lives. And then at one point it will hit you like a ton of bricks, and you realize, oh my gosh, like I'm judging these people in a way where I say, whether it be out loud or not, internally, like, okay, you're disqualified from being around me.
Absolutely.
And that's so hard hitting. I'm like, okay, God, I have to then repent and say, God, I need you to help fix my heart and fix my mind to be more like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we do weird stuff. We're just really good at doing weird things. And among those is to take points of view, and even, we can twist this. We can take points of view and then think we find stuff like that in the Bible. We can also do that and it actually be in the Bible. But the direction may not be as great, meaning you have the idea and then you went and found it, and maybe it actually is true, but the way you got there prioritizes the idea rather than what Scripture is teaching. So you may think your idea is locked in rather than allowing Scripture to modify your idea to maybe something. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That we become stuck on this. And so currently, and for a number of years, maybe even decades, the idea of Americanism, and that if that, the Bible we're doing the Bible right because we're trying to shut down this particular thing, whatever it is. And we can then go to the Bible and find those things that we're bothered about because, and for whatever reason, maybe we heard that that thing was wrong and was in the Bible, and then we went and found, then we disagreed with it, and now someone challenges it, and you're like, I'm going to go find it, and then you find it, and you're like, oh, this is what it means, without doing any further research because you just had your belief confirmed. And so it becomes this cycle, and so it's actually, ideally, I think, one of the fuel for humility. Because if I can recognize that those people are doing it, sense to me says, oh no, I'm doing it too. Yeah. as in my mind, no, I do it right. That would be completely arrogant. And so it doesn't mean also that I'm saying I'm doing it wrong. I want the humility involved to go, okay, let me continue to make effort, as if when I was first studying and knew I didn't know anything, knew I needed to learn still, and so I put forth tons of effort. The needed effort now is just about different subjects, or more. We're diving in deeper. There's a difference between someone just starting to work out, just barely, versus somebody who's now been working out for a while and they're figuring out macros in their diet and everything else. You start with macros in your diet, it's going to mess up. You're diving too deep and you don't understand the basics. You might get to macros, but take your time, allow yourself to grow into those things. So, but what we have is evidence that, in my mind, that we tend to do things wrong. And even when we're trying to do it right, we put carts before horses and get ahead of God. The required humility, and what James is pointing to, is you guys are fighting all the time. You're dishonoring each other to the degree that you're acting like they aren't in the image of God, that they aren't His.
Right.
This isn't okay.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not the standard of Jesus. This is not what you were even taught as kids. You saw it acted out, but it's not the standard. Just because you've seen people act like this doesn't mean that they're following the Bible. Right. I'm also not saying they're the devil.
Right.
I'm just simply saying that there's potentially a better way. There's a way of honoring without throwing away what you think are your convictions. You can have your beliefs and not dismiss and throw away people. Right. Everyone, like I close with, everyone has the right to the same hope that I was given. Right. If they're not, then I was never given it. Right. Then it's not free.
Yeah.
So, and I should be scared because maybe this whole thing's a lie. So anyway.
No, that's good. That's really good.
I have so many things on my mind, even just in that, the dismissive towards people. I just keep thinking value and valuing people, that no matter what side of whatever people stand on, God created them and they have value, just no different than I have value. And again, you said the law, there's so many laws, there's so many things and practices and, expectations that we read about in the Bible of, like, maybe this is the way you should behave, or this is the way you should carry yourself or should talk or whatever. But God simplifies it all the way down to what you said. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And in essence, that is your everything. Love God with your everything.
Yep.
And then 1A, I couldn't stop talking about this yesterday. I'm like, yeah, it's not 1 and 2, because 1A is love people as if they were you, which means I can't say I'm obeying rule 1 if I'm not obeying 1A, and vice versa. I can't love God with my everything if I don't love His people the same way and value them the same. And that's where we get caught up, because a lot of the other things, if we were to love people the way that God sees them, then regardless of where they are in their journey, if they're the guy from Corn who just got saved and is still cussing like a sailor talking about how he just got saved, or if he's a guy that's been following Jesus for 50 years and, I don't know, has some opinions on how he thinks things should be, they all deserve the same value
Yeah.
and the same love
And
there
grace.
and grace and mercy. There is discernment there that says, well, hey, you over here who's been following Jesus for 50 years, have you ever thought that maybe the way that you're talking about this issue right now
Mm-hmm.
may not be loving people first or loving God first, or maybe just harsh, or maybe narrow-minded or whatever. But again, having relationship, I don't just walk up to anybody. That does nobody any good. And just even thinking about, came up this morning, good discussion with Bib. It's like social media. People throw things up there. When we're throwing stuff up there to try to change somebody's mind or try to tell them that my opinion is right, you are not valuing their story in any way. You're not being humble. You're just being opinionated. And though you might biblically be right, air quotes, in your perception, your delivery of it is completely breaking law 1 and 2, 1 and 1A. Like that's my problem of, like you said on Sunday, if I criticize and judge others, am I loving them as if they were me? No. I'm claiming that they aren't the same as me and therefore don't deserve what I have. That like hurts my soul. And some of the stuff that's happening in our country right now is a really hard one because we're treating people as if they don't deserve what I have that somehow I do.
Yeah.
And I don't.
And at this level, at the level that you're talking about, it has zero to do, this is going to set this in time, with the big, beautiful bill.
Right.
It doesn't. You can have opinions about that, whether you're for or against, it doesn't matter, or some version of it.
Yep.
But we're talking about how you are interacting with other people.
Right.
It's how PJ said it on
What
Wednesday
you
night.
do with it.
Yes, the issues, the things that are there, but we need to be praying into how we treat people, how the people closely involved treat people, how the people that we think aren't necessarily the right people, how they're, it's just so messy. I'm trying to like not.
No, I'll give you one that helps, that you can have opinions about that there should be laws for immigration for our country. Many people do. Some of them are educated, well thought out views. Some are less so. Mine would be less so. I don't know anything about immigration. So that doesn't mean I don't have opinions. But there's a difference between that and being, ideally, I would encourage recognition, the difference between your opinions about policy and how you interact with a person.
Yeah.
100%.
And it does change when you know them.
Right.
If you're able then to go, okay, I know certain people and I care about them, understand that there's other people you may not know. They're still as valid as people, humans, as the people you do know. You're being able to understand your ability to think and have empathy and compassion now expands. Now, let's say you absolutely are for every individual. Does that mean your idea of policy changes? It probably will be affected, but you can still say we should have closed borders. You don't even need Bible verses for that. That side note.
Sorry. Yes.
When people throw up, here's my verse for about border. You don't need verses. You just go, oh,
That's my opinion.
I have walls on my home too. I lock my door.
Right.
I don't need a Bible verse for that. So this is just one of the options you could do it. You don't have to lock your door. Do what you want. But how I deal with a person is totally different.
100%.
Well, even if I'm uncomfortable with the person, still these things can remain separate. So
The uncomfortable with people, you talked about contempt, which I loved. And you said contempt makes a caricature of others, kind of meaning like makes them less real, just an idea or cartoony or less than or something. So contempt breeds this concept of caricature, which leads to cruelty, because now I don't value them. So, and then when you said you got a collective sigh of we often treat our dogs better than we treat humans, and owning 2 giant yellow labs who sleep in my bed. Yes, we do. We treat our dogs, they're ridiculous, but it's that mindset of I just love where you went with that contempt and how we see people and how we value them regardless of where they're at in their journey of transformation. If somebody is choosing to live or believe or even just, beat down doors for their cause that is polar opposite to me, I cannot look at them with contempt. Now, I may look at them, what I usually say is, they have not had a revelation of Jesus in their mind, in their life yet. If they're beating down doors that are completely contrary to the Word of God, and I need to believe that they would have a moment with Jesus, and I think that would change everything. But until then, doesn't mean I'm agreeing with how they believe or what they're fighting for or whatever. But I can still honor them as a human being, and go, thank you, God, that I know you personally.
Yeah.
Because, like the Revelation chapter 2 reference you made, I can't remember if it's in that one or later, but it's like, yeah, it is. It's like, remember where you've fallen from. Like, that is one of my absolute favorite things to quote from the Bible. I never want to forget that 32 years ago, I showed up at Good News Church, 19 and pregnant. I never want to forget that.
Right.
Because the way I was received here by some was, she should be tarred and feathered and she should have a giant scarlet A on her and she should be out of here. But many treated me with the love of Christ. And there's a story behind how she got in this situation. And we're going to get to know her and we're going to walk her through to the other side. And now look at where I am and where my daughter is. Like, that is because we cannot remember from where we've fallen, and we have to love and live that way and see people that way rather than just being all about opinions.
Right.
Oh, she got herself pregnant. Oh, she da-da-da-da. Oh, whatever. You have no idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And there's plenty of people who are throwing around those opinions whose sin has just not become very, very public on the outside of their body, But we love to throw around, our judgment of people.
Yeah. Well, this is a judgmental thing to say. I don't say it. Like you're talking about apparent sins, and we so openly will point the finger at people who you can see their sins on them. I used to say all the time, you could see the sin on my face, like, and you probably still can, just meaning I look rough. But anyway, that's easy to do. But typically I feel like for me now, the sin that I have in my life now that God is working on in me is easy to hide. That's the truth of it. But like, there's all kinds of things, that we look past. For most of my life, all the pastors that I was around, were like the most gluttonous people that I had ever met. Every Sunday was followed, by what buffet can we close down, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Like, let's go for lunch. Let's go for lunch, but stay for dinner kind of a thing. And it's like, man, we don't talk about that. But those were the people who, whenever they found out that I was drinking and smoking, were like, get out of here, And I was like, oh, I thought this was what we did. It's just a little different. But no, I can't help but go back to that also of like, I don't ever want to forget. And I bring it up often. I think you bring it up often, Greg. I think all of us kind of do. PR, we bring up often the place that we used to be in, not to, I know I don't ever bring it up as like this is who I used to be in a good way. I'm saying, no, that's who I used to be. Like, I can't believe that this is where I am today. Like, I don't deserve to be here today. Yeah. I don't ever want to forget that because I'm so grateful. It brings back that heart of gratitude towards God. And it also brings back my mind to, and my heart towards people of like, man, I'm so glad that there were people that came around me that did the same thing as what they did for you. And same thing for you, Greg. Like, people came around us while other people didn't, while other people shamed us and said we're not worthy to be here. There were the right people, the people that understood this in the core of who they were, and they came around us and they brought us closer to Christ as opposed to putting their arm out and keeping us distance. And none of us would be here had it not been for that. So now my responsibility, our responsibility is to now keep that being what we do.
Yeah.
If that has been what you have experienced, you have to keep that going.
Yeah.
Or otherwise you turn into the person that shamed and pushed you away.
That's right.
And like, how ridiculous would that be?
Yeah.
What a shame would that be for God to bring you here, walk you through this stuff, and then for you to put your hand up to the person that's in need, or that is not just in need, but that is different.
That's the parable of the guy that begged for forgiveness of his debt, and he got it, and then he went right out and he like beat his servant because he owed him like this little pittance of money or whatever. And then the guy that originally forgave him found out and was like, oh man, like,
Yeah, this is one of the ways, in my opinion, that you go, oh, I think I might be on to something. When you start remembering Jesus' parables, you go, oh,
wait a minute, I know this story.
wow. So you come around backwards to it and you go, oh my gosh. And I don't mean wrong direction. You just realize you thought you had a hold of it, but what you had a hold of was a story. And so it's still there and you're like, okay. But then it comes back, you go, oh my gosh, that seems like what he's talking about. I wonder if there's more to that also. At least my thinking. Right. I need to leave that case open because I don't, maybe more's coming. And so it's great. I know we're hitting time. There's a ironic challenge here, or danger maybe, is that even as we're doing what we're doing, which I think is just so wonderful, that we have the ability to go, oh, a simplified version, oh, I'm going to be graceful. And if you're not going to be graceful, then you're not allowed.
Right.
We'll do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm slow. Right. Yeah. And so even as I
do it, when I was saying something about, and there's still people who did it, I'm like, I'm doing it.
I had an example in my head too of that, and I was like, dang it, I can't say it.
Right. And so I use the example that on Sunday that I can now suddenly can't remember the example. But anyway, it's just weird what we end up doing. But I go, oh, you don't deserve because of how you're acting, which is the exact same statement. I'm saying that I've now defined whatever it is you're doing as a separatable, to make a word, offense. And do I have evidence for that? And do I have the right? Within community, if you're going to walk around with a loaded gun and just fire it randomly up into the roof, well, you know what? You are a danger, and we're going to separate you from community. Your individual choice at that moment is not. We're not able to have that. That's unacceptable. Doesn't mean you're invalid as a human. It just means this isn't going to happen. And so there are, and I'm being like crazy with the example just to make a point. There can be those things, but they still don't mean you don't have access to God.
Right.
It just means that maybe this isn't the space. You might need to move to North Dakota, where maybe they have outdoor church and they all fire guns up into the sky.
Yeah. They don't scream out hallelujah. They just shoot their guns.
Right. And
that'd be interesting.
Absolutely. Right. So it's just this, we have a tendency to what we can get, I think, is we have a tendency to create boundaries for ourselves. And this isn't a great way of doing it, but it's not the worst either. And within those boundaries, we're going to create maybe safe spaces for us to exist. But do those boundaries allow others in? If you were a Hebrew, would Ruth be allowed in? And that's a longer conversation, different, but are outsiders who act like insiders able to have access to the privilege that you have?
What about insiders who act like outsiders? Do they get to stay in?
God pushes on them hard.
He does. And I think
it's a great question of what makes God angry.
And that's the key takeaway, because as you were talking, I looked back at the scripture, and James is telling them what they need to be doing. He is not, at least thus far, is not telling us, and if they don't do this, you get to do this to them.
Right.
He doesn't say that. It's basically God is their judge, and God will handle it. Your job, like what you say to your kids, Your job is to do what you've been told to do, regardless of what your brother or sister do. Period. Right? Like, regardless, you're called to do this.
Yeah.
And if you disobey that, and you're going to try to blame them for it, it's your responsibility. You know.
Every parent
So
who has multiple kids
has said that. And it's literally God saying, yeah, I'll handle the insider who's acting like an outsider, who you want to kick out but isn't getting kicked out. You let me handle them. You keep treating them the way that I've called you to treat them.
and even not right in your community doesn't mean not right, not for God.
That's true too.
Still,
Yes, that's true. Let me just wrap up really quick. Intentionally think, say, do. Don't give space to criticism and judgment, even in your thoughts. And I loved how you used Philippians 4:8 there about what we can think about. And if you don't know Philippians 4:8, go look it up and slow down, because it's some words that we don't always use. But thinking about it's talking about what we need to be thinking about and how to change what I'm dwelling on and what I'm letting eat at me.
and
Really,
it's incredibly practical.
very practical.
So these aren't ethereal kind of overly spiritual thoughts. These are things you now hear in regular, just basic psychiatry and things. Oh, you're being bombarded with negative thoughts. Let's pay attention. What brought them on? Let's try to separate from those things and find things that instead bring good things in. It's almost like Jesus is saying they clear the house and 7 worse things come in because you haven't filled the house.
Yeah.
And that's not the correct version of that, but it's an application.
What do you intentionally say? Ask questions. Is it possible that you don't know and understand everything? And that is like my constant on repeat at home. You watch a story on the news, you hear a gossip about a certain situation. What do you not know about the story? You have no idea what was going on in that person's mind when they made this decision. We have no idea why they're bankrupt and they're making as much money as they are, because you're making a judgment when you don't know or understand the situation or what they've lived their life. And then what should I intentionally do? I loved it. You said complain up. Even if you think your opinion is 100% correct, take it to God and let Him help you process it out. Defend the right of others to be found by God, even if you think it could never happen. And I'll add to that another, even if you kind of wrestle with, I don't want it to happen. I've made that joke on here that I totally do not mean, but of like, there's certain people that if they're going to go to, I want them to go to heaven, but I don't want them to be on the same street as me. Like, I'm working on that. But it's like, yeah, even people who you feel in your wisdom don't deserve God and His redemption. We need to take that to God and defend that they do deserve it, even when it's hard to admit that. And it's not our responsibility to judge the law. It's God's responsibility. So we love Him with everything. And therefore that should outflow that we love with His love. Doesn't mean you have to be best friends and in a relationship. It just means that you love them, the dignity and the value as a creation of God, that they deserve Jesus' redemption just as much as you do.
Absolutely. I'll add, if you find yourself, for us 3 and anyone, for the 3 people who will watch, obviously joking, there's at least 8.
I was going to say 6.
Now I lost my train of thought. Darn it. Supervisor.
Brilliant, you tell me.
It was helpful. It's not coming back. That's frustrating.
Thinks they do. Defend the right of others to be found by God. They deserve redemption.
Kind of think of it when it's not
And say what's helpful
Yes. It really
would be not to tell a joke.
Oh my gosh, that's true. Absolutely true. Yeah.
It's like our nemesis.
ADD on parade. My.
You got anything, Josh, while he's thinking? Should we wrap it up? Yeah, we ran really long today.
Yeah.
I haven't been on in a few weeks, and then we had no babysitter in the room, really. I just decided to behave like a child like you guys, so it was great.
It's all right. We're having a pool party after this.
I feel condemned. Why I got to be a child.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you learned something or were inspired, or just even maybe you completely disagreed with everything and it drives you to the Bible. We couldn't ask for a better solution. So Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a wonderful week, and we will chat again next time.
Thanks again for joining us today. We would love for you to tell others about the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to it too, because this will help others find out about it. If you missed it before, we love to hear from you. So if you have any stories to tell about how the message impacted you, or maybe you have a question or comment, make sure you email us at podcast@goodnews.church. Y'all, this is my favorite day of the week. So go give away what you just learned, and we'll chat again next time.